Myth or fact? Turns out your body doesn't hit a full reset every 7 years. This changes how you think about who you really are. You have probably heard it said, every 7 years, you become an entirely new person. It sounds poetic, and there's a grain of biological truth buried inside it. But the full picture is far more nuanced and far more fascinating than a simple 7-year clock. The idea originates partly from observations about cell renewal in the human body. Some cells do replace themselves continuously. Others take years. Some never replace at all. The question is, does that cellular turnover actually make you a different person? To answer that, we need to look at what science actually says about how and when your body cells renew. Different tissues in your body operate on completely different timescales. The lining of your gut replaces itself roughly every 2 to 5 days. Skin cells turn over in about 2 to 4 weeks. Red blood cells last around 4 months before being replaced. Liver cells renew over a period of roughly 1 to 2 years. But not all parts of your body follow this pattern of renewal. The neurons in the cerebral cortex, the outer layer of your brain, are largely the same ones you were born with. The lens of your eye contains cells that also date back to your birth. Cardiac muscle cells, which make up the heart, replace themselves extremely slowly. Only around 40 to 50% are replaced over an entire lifetime. So the 7-year claim is not a lie. It just applies to some tissues and not others. Your body is less like a building that gets fully rebuilt and more like a patchwork, some parts constantly renewed, others essentially permanent. This raises a deeper question. If your cells are constantly changing, what stays constant? Your DNA, with very few exceptions, remains the same throughout your life. Your memories, encoded in neural connections, persist across decades, even as other cells are replaced. Your identity is not stored in any single cell. It emerges from patterns that outlast the cells themselves. Let's look at the science behind each tissue's renewal rate and what it means for how you age. Researchers have used a technique called radiocarbon dating to determine the age of specific cells in the human body. This method exploits the fact that elevated carbon-14 levels from nuclear testing in the mid-20th century left a measurable signature in cells formed during that era. By measuring carbon-14 concentrations in cell nuclei, scientists can calculate when a cell was born with striking precision. This research, led in part by Jonas Friesen at the Karolinska Institute, produced some of the most reliable data on cell age in the human body. The study confirmed that skeletal muscle cells are replaced over several years, though the connective tissue within muscle renews much more slowly. Fat cells, or adipocytes, were found to have an average age of around 8 to 10 years, slightly longer than the popular 7-year claim. Bone cells, or osteocytes, renew over a period of roughly 10 years in most skeletal regions. The olfactory neurons, the cells responsible for your sense of smell, are one of the few neuron types in the adult brain that do regenerate. The hippocampus, linked to memory formation, shows limited new neuron growth in some mammals. Whether this occurs significantly in adult humans remains an active area of research. Intestinal stem cells divide constantly and are among the fastest renewing populations in the body, producing new gut lining cells within days. Platelet cells, which help blood clot, last only around 8 to 10 days before replacement. Corneal cells on the surface of your eye renew rapidly, roughly every 7 to 10 days. Meanwhile, the cells of the tooth enamel are never replaced. Once formed, enamel is permanent. The intervertebral disc, the cushioning tissue between vertebrae, renews extremely slowly over many decades. White blood cells vary considerably. Some neutrophils live only hours. Certain memory T cells persist for decades. This variation tells us something important. Renewal rate is tied directly to function. Cells that face constant physical or chemical stress, gut lining, skin, blood, renew rapidly. Cells that are structurally critical and hard to replace, neurons, cardiac muscle, enamel, are retained as long as possible. The body does not renew arbitrarily. It renews strategically, based on each tissue's role and risk. So the 7-year figure is really an average, one that conceals a vast range from days to a lifetime. What does this mean for how we age? Renewal is not the same as restoration. Each time a cell divides, there is a small chance of errors accumulating in the copy. Over decades, these accumulated errors, not the renewal itself, are a key driver of the aging process. We now understand the biology, but what does it mean for the larger question? Are you the same person you were 7 years ago? Philosophically, this is known as the ship of Theseus problem. If every plank of a ship is eventually replaced, is it still the same ship? Applied to the human body, the answer depends entirely on what you define as the essential you. If you define yourself by your cells, then yes, much of you has been replaced. But cells are not where your continuity lives. Your sense of self is constructed from memory, personality, relationships, and accumulated experience. These are encoded not in individual cells, but in the patterns of connection between billions of neurons. Those neural patterns, built over years of experience, are far more stable than any individual cell. Your earliest memories are stored in neural structures that have remained largely intact since childhood. Your personality traits, curiosity, temperance, openness, are partly shaped by genetics encoded in DNA that has not changed. Psychologically, research into personal identity suggests that people perceive a strong continuity of self across time, even as they acknowledge change. You know you're different from who you were at age 10, but you still recognize yourself as the same person. This is sometimes called narrative identity, the ongoing story you tell about yourself that connects past, present, and future. That story is not stored in your cells. It is stored in memory, language, and relationship. Biologically, you are a living process, not a fixed object. Renewal is part of what keeps you alive. The heart that beats today is not the same heart you had as a child, but it carries forward the same function, the same rhythm. The neurons that hold your oldest memories are, in many cases, the very same neurons present at your birth. There is a continuity in biology, in memory, and in identity that the 7-year myth, as popularly told, overlooks entirely. You're not a new person every 7 years. You are an ongoing, dynamic process, constantly renewing what needs renewal, preserving what must endure. Understanding this changes how you might think about aging, about change, and about what is truly fixed in who you are. The cells may turn over. The DNA stays. The memories persist. The patterns that make you, they outlast the matter they are made of. Science does not diminish the sense of self. If anything, it deepens it. You are more than the sum of your cells, and you always have been. That is not myth. That is biology.